Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of Rao's IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates. Hello everyone and welcome to the weekly edition of Daily News Simplified, where we take up the entire edition of Indian Express Explained section from the previous week as well as the Sunday edition of the Hindu newspaper. Articles which have been taken for today's discussion are listed on your screen, and the time stamping for these articles are already given in the description box. So let us begin with the first article for the day. This article appeared on 23rd of March and talks about the inputs and the history of the revolutionary leader Bhagat Singh, who was executed by the British Indian government in 1931. From the perspective of Indian history, especially the Indian modern history, it is important for the candidates to understand the important personalities, their contribution, especially the contribution with respect to organization, institution, as well as the literary contribution, including the newspapers and other articles. UPSC has been asking questions from the different personalities as far as these different aspects are covered. So, in this article, we will talk about the different prelim pointers from the life of Bhagat Singh and his contribution towards the Indian freedom struggle. Bhagat Singh actually belongs to the second generation of revolutionaries in India. The first generation of revolutionaries or extremists actually came in the last decade of 19th century with the leadership of Bal Gangadhar Tilak. We have the example of Chapekar brothers in Bombay Presidency. Bhagat Singh actually came up with the socialist idea thanks to the revolutionary activities and the communist ideology that was given by Karl Marx and later popularized by the Russian Revolution. He was born as Bhagwanwala on 27th of September 1907 in Punjab. He joined National Congress in Lahore and completed his education from there itself. National College at Lahore was founded by Lala Lajpat Rai and Bhai Parmanand. At the young age of 16, he joined and became the member of Hindustan Republican Association, also known by the name HRA. This organization was started by Sachindranath Sanyal, and the main organizer of this organization was Chandrasekhar Azad, another revolutionary known for the Indian freedom struggle. In 1926, Bhagat Singh worked with Sachin Singh Josh and joined the editorial board of Kirti newspaper or editorial publication. The Kirti editorial was published in Punjabi language and Bhagat Singh contributed his ideas in this also. In 1927, he was charged under the Kakori conspiracy case for dacoity and also the bombing in Lahore. However, this was not the case where he was hanged. In 1928, he changed the name of HRA to Hindustan Republican Association to Hindustan Socialist Republic Association, which clearly proves that Bhagat Singh was the prominent leader who supported the socialist ideology. However, he was not in favor of extreme form of communism as propounded by Karl Marx. He was also in support to establish the Republic of India and also the democracy in Indian subcontinent. In 1929, along with Bakuteshwar Dutt, he set an explosive inside the Central Legislative Assembly in Delhi. Currently, this is part of Indian Parliament. However, this bombing was not in favor to hurt anyone. This bombing was to put a signal that Indians may turn out to be violent if independence is not handed over to them. Because of this bombing, they again retreated the slogan of Inqilab Zindabad in the public domain. Even for this activity, he was not hanged. Bhagat Singh was hanged just to kill and murder Saunders, a British officer, in 1931, along with Rajguru and Sukhdev. In 1930, that is the year before the execution, he organized a hunger strike in jail where Jatin Das died because of this hunger strike. Apart from this basic detail, all of these actually are important for your prelim examination. So go through them all the points by heart. As per the article, Bhagat Singh was one of the prominent supporters of non-cooperation movement run by Mahatma Gandhi in the initial phase. At that moment, he was just 13 years of age. But when Mahatma Gandhi withdrew the movement suddenly after Chauri Chaura incident, Bhagat Singh actually moved towards the revolutionary ideas as well as the militant extremism. He considered Kartar Singh Saraba. Now, Kartar Singh Saraba is one of the founding member of Ghadar party, and he considered Kartar Singh as his hero. That means even his ideals were part of revolutionary extremism. When he was in jail in 1930, he wrote an essay, Why I Am an Atheist. And this is extremely important and could be asked in the prelim examination as well in the match the following question. This essay was written in his duration in the Lahore Central Jail. Even those people who supported or wrote about Bhagat Singh, such as Jitendra Nath Sanyal, who wrote the biography of Bhagat Singh, was acquitted in Lahore conspiracy case. Mahatma Gandhi, who was charged of not providing the support to get Bhagat Singh's execution commuted, was shown black flags when Mahatma Gandhi visited Karachi. And these were offered by the members of Naujawan Bharat Sabha. This organization was founded by Bhagat Singh in Punjab itself. And this organization was also following the objective of revolutionary ideologies among the youth of Punjab province. With this given discussion, now I will leave you with this practice question. Read this question carefully. This is your question number 1 for today and try to answer in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. This article was published in Explained section of Indian Express on 24th of March. An article talks about the important map location in international front. The article says that why Mariupol matters to Russia in this war between Russia and Ukraine. Now, from the perspective of UPSC, in the prelim examination, we often see that questions from maps are asked. And this year, as we know that Ukraine and Russia, including the areas around these nations, have been in news for a while, hence it is important for the student who are preparing for the upcoming prelim examination to go through these important locations in the map. So from this article, we'll take up the importance of this Mariupol from the perspective of UPSC examination. Now, as you can see, this is a basic map of Ukraine, which also shows its neighboring countries, including Russia. The areas which are shaded in the dark orange color are the areas which are inside Ukrainian territory but are now under control by the Russian authorities after their invasion in eastern part of Russia. Now, Mariupol is an important coastal town situated in the southeastern part of Ukraine and it opens in the Sea of Azov. You must be well aware that in 2014, Russia actually annexed the Crimea. As you can see, this is the lower part or the lower section of Ukraine is Crimea, which is under the Russian authorities right now. So Mariupol lies between Crimea and the Donbass. Now this area of Ukraine is known as Donbass. So if tomorrow Russia wants to control the entire region of Sea of Azov and want to secure its trade between the Sea of Azov to Black Sea, Russia would like to have better control in the cities which are located on the coastal areas of Sea of Azov. And that is the reason why Russia is looking towards more control in Mariupol area of Ukraine. From this map, you'll come across the importance of Sea of Azov to Russia. Now, any shipment which is going from this part, that is the western part of Russia, to the other parts of Africa, Asia, or even the southern part of Europe would like to pass from Sea of Azov. And in order to secure its movement from Sea of Azov, Russia would like to control the coastal cities including the Mariupol and Berdyansk from Ukraine. So Mariupol is the first town where Russia would like to have better hand. And this is the reason why this point or this location was covered in the article. So from prelims perspective and map perspective, it is important for the student to know that the different locations which were in the news articles from the perspective of Ukraine and Russia. With this discussion, we'll move to the important question attached to this article. So read this question number 2 carefully and try to answer in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. This article appeared in the explained section of Indian Express and was published on 26th of March, that is yesterday. This article talks about a recent legislation which is being proposed, and this legislation is known as Digital Markets Act and is going to be enhanced and passed by the European Union in order to protect the online platforms or the online working of important tech giants or tech companies, and will protect the consumers as well as the suppliers of content from these platforms. Now, most of the time, what we see, even in the case of India, that the application developers in India, we saw the case of Paytm, which had issues with Google Play Store. Now, similarly, there were numerous companies, including the Spotify, that has charged the Apple Store as well as the Google Play Store for restricting their content or even harassing these companies for paying only through the platforms created by these technology giants. Now, European nations have already brought the General Data Protection Regulations previously in order to protect the privacy of its citizens. This is the next step which will secure and will protect the consumers from the harassment of these large technological giants. Now, this article specifically talks about a term, and this term is known as gatekeeper. Gatekeeper term has been used in these Digital Markets Act for the giant technological companies like Apple, Google, Meta, and others. So let us analyze this article in much more detail. The context says that Digital Markets Act will focus on the companies that are termed as gatekeepers, which will include companies like Apple, Facebook, also known with the name Meta, Google, and others. These companies will have to comply with the new rules. We will also discuss these rules in detail. And the European Council said that this step has been taken in order to protect the digital sector, make it more fairer, and will make it more competitive in its approach. Now, why do the countries in the European nation need such laws? First of all, these companies belong to the United States, and these are the technological giants which holds monopoly in many technologies. They have been known to control the distribution, whether it is for the apps or the advertisement platform. So Google Play Store may decide that what application will find place on it, or Apple iOS platform may restrict a particular application to be hosted on its platform. This brings a discrimination between the application developer. People who are not very much rich, in order to pay the high dividends or high fees to these platforms, may find it difficult to launch their applications on these platforms. Then they also force the app developers to have the dedicated channel for subscriptions. It is like this. Let's say there is an application which charges 500 rupees a year. Let's say you want to subscribe to a music application. Now, when you want to pay the 500 rupees charge for annual plan, you are not required to pay it directly to the application. Instead, you are charged from the wallet, from the funds which you keep with the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. This mediator function of these applications or platforms have been accused by the app developers. The third party applications are not allowed by these companies. So iOS or Apple Store or Google Play Store easily does not allow the third party apps. or applications. And this has restricted the small developers, the developer who do not have large funds or advertising capability to launch their applications on such large platforms. So, the content for the article would include that what are the gatekeeper companies as per these rules, what are the rules which have been highlighted under the DMA, and how it will impact the Indian markets. Now, as per the DMA, gatekeepers are those companies which have dual roles. They act as a developer for the operating system as well as they act as a device manufacturer. I'll give you the example of iPhones. So in iPhone, Apple is a device manufacturer as well as it also manufactures the operating system known by the name iOS. The same is true with some of the Android devices as well. The second condition for the gatekeeper companies is that their annual turnover should be $7.5 billion in the past 3 years. Their market valuation should be above $75 billion. They should have over 45 million monthly end users and they should be functioning in more than 3 European nations. So all these conditions will highlight and will categorize a company into a gatekeeper company, and these companies will be subjected to the following rules. However, these rules will not be provided or will not be implemented on small and marginal companies. These rules will be implemented in the following manner. The users will have right to choose, and users here include the users of the devices, that is consumers. They will have right to choose what application they would like to install and what application they would like to delete. So the companies such as Apple, Google and others will not force the consumer to install a particular application as a stock or default app. There are two advantages of this. First, it will save the valuable data of the consumer. It will also promote the privacy of the consumer and it will definitely restrict the harassment of the consumer on the part of companies. Users will not be forced by these companies to use the software of their default or factory settings. Interoperability will be allowed between different applications. For example, it was also mentioned in the article that WhatsApp should be allowed to communicate with iMessage of iOS. So this kind of interoperability between different platforms should be allowed in order to provide better flexibilities to the consumers. As of now, what we see that you cannot send WhatsApp message or you cannot forward WhatsApp message to the other applications such as Telegram or Hike or others. You can only send WhatsApp messages to the other WhatsApp account. It will also allow the installation and the effective use of third-party application if they are providing the secure platform. The gatekeepers, that is these companies, will not be allowed to establish unfair conditions of exploitation through the payment services of their gateway. Application developers will get a fair access to the supplementary functionalities for their smartphones, such as if an application want to have access to near field communication of a mobile phone, they can easily do that. They will not require access or permission from Apple Store or the Google Play Store. They will also inform the European Commission about the acquisition and the mergers. This is the most important point because what we normally see is that when large companies find small companies to be a rising competitor, the first thing they do is they try to stop that company from being a large one. If they are not able to control the market expansion of these small companies, they will try to acquire those companies. As we have seen that Facebook was looking WhatsApp as its biggest competitor, or Facebook was looking Instagram as its biggest competitor. And that is the reason why Facebook has brought these two important applications for billions of dollars. The last one is that gatekeepers will not be allowed to rank their own products, such as Google Play Store will not be allowed to rank Google Maps, or they will not be allowed to rank or star rating the Google Drive. This will reduce the in-house promotion of these applications and will prevent these applications from making the false promises in consumer approach towards their product. So these rules, if become reality, will definitely help in bringing down the exploitation of these large gatekeeper companies. Now the point comes that what will be the impact on India? If these kind of rules are being implemented in Europe, that will put up a good confidence or will boost the confidence of Indian startups to demand the similar provisions in India. Now, India is the third largest app developer country in the world. Now, if India wants to have the similar accessibility to these stores or these platforms, India would like to demand the same. India, if brings such kind of provisions, that it can help in development of its own ecosystem with respect to application and its own services. It will help the financial application to get boost in their functionalities. So we know the case of Paytm with respect to Google Play Store. So in future we will not have such kind of disputes. And lastly, it will bring a check on the arm twisting made by these large gatekeeper companies with respect to small application developers. However, allowing such kind of provision will bring more security breach in India where the security legislation is very weak. So before bringing any kind of provisions in order to promote the application development or restrict the exploitation of large companies, India need to bring the Data Protection Act as soon as possible and also align it with the international best practices. With this discussion in place, I will leave you with this question to practice. Answer this question in the comment box after reading it carefully. Let us now move to the next article for the day. This article appeared on page first of the Sunday edition of the Hindu newspaper, that is today. This article actually talks about the extension of the free ration scheme for the next 6 months by the central government. The union government has extended the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana by another 6 months. This scheme was actually launched in April 2020 in order to accommodate the hurdles faced by the poor migrant population during the first wave of COVID crisis. The relevance of this article is from the prelims as well as the mains because in both these stages UPSC can ask questions from the various government schemes targeting the welfare of the nation. So we'll try to read all about the scheme, its aspects, benefits and beneficiaries from the perspective of both the stages of the examination. Now as you can see in the past also UPSC has asked questions from the government schemes in multiple fronts. In 2018, they have asked question from the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. In 2016, the question was asked from the Mudra Yojana. In 2014, the question was asked from Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. Hence, this is important for the student to go through the important schemes of the central government launched in the past 2-3 years in much more detail. For this scheme, well, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana is a part of the larger scheme, that is the Atma Bharat scheme or the Atma Bharat Yojana launched in order to accommodate the poor population during the COVID-19 crisis. This scheme actually targeted the supply of free food grain. Now, free here is the most important aspect of this scheme. And these free food will be provided to the migrant laborers as well as the poor population of the society. The scheme functions under Ministry of Consumer Affairs. The first phase of this scheme was launched in April 2020 and this would be the sixth scheme which will start from April 2022. Scheme is going to benefit around 81.35 crore people who will get 5 kg of free wheat rice per person per month along with 1 kg of free whole chana for each family per month. Now the difference between this and National Food Security Act is that rice, wheat and coarse grain are charged at 3 rupees, 2 rupees and 1 rupee a kg under National Food Security Act 2013. However, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana removes this price tag for the beneficiaries. And that is the reason why the scheme provides free ration to all the beneficiaries. The scheme targets although all the states, but the primary focus is Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Chandigarh, Delhi, Gujarat and parts of Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, and Bihar. The scheme also provides over and above the regular monthly entitlements which beneficiaries are required to get under the National Food Security Act. As far as beneficiaries are concerned, well, the beneficiaries are the most important aspect of any government scheme. Well, the beneficiaries for this scheme would include the BPL families, including the Antyodaya Anna Yojana, for which the beneficiaries are identified by the states on the order of the central government, and also the priority households, which are exclusively identified by the state government. It will include the highest households which are headed by the widows or the terminally ill people. It will also include the household which are headed by disabled person or the person above the age of 60 or more. It will also include the households where there is only a single woman or a single man with no family or societal support. It will also include the beneficiaries from the tribal households which are living in the primitive conditions, that is, in the forest areas. It will have BPL families of the HIV positive persons also. And lastly, it will have the people from landless agricultural laborers, marginal farmers, and many other people who do not get enough income per month in order to survive in a better condition. That includes the snake charmers, rag pickers, cobbler, destitutes, and many others. Most of them are actually migrant laborers who were busy before the COVID crisis in the urban centers and were forced to migrate to their poor localities without food and support. That was the basic reason why this scheme was launched by the government, to at least provide them the food benefits for the upcoming period. Now, as government has extended this for the next 6 months, it is likely to benefit all these beneficiaries across the India, and will also put a slight more burden on the government, with estimated around 53,000 crore rupees on the annual budget of the union government. With this discussion in place, let us now move to the question attached to this article. So read question number 4 and try to identify the correct statements given in this question, and also comment the correct answer in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. This article appeared on page 10 of Sunday edition of the Hindu newspaper and talks about the importance of Gahir Matha beach in order to witness the Aribadas. Now, Aribadas are the mass nesting by olive ridley turtles. Olive ridley turtles arrive from the different parts of the oceanic regions in the world to these coastal areas, and they try to lay their eggs in the soil of this coastal region. And that is the reason why this area was declared as the Gahir Matha Marine Sanctuary years back. So this year, almost 2.45 lakh olive ridley sea turtles have arrived to the Gahir Matha Marine Sanctuary to lay down their eggs. The relevance of this article is for both prelims and the mains examination. In the prelims, important wildlife species and their conservation efforts could be asked. In the mains examination, it is important under General Studies paper 3 for environment and ecology. The content for this article would include the map location, Bhitarkanika Mangrove, Gahir Matha Marine Sanctuary, and important prelim pointers regarding the olive ridley turtles. In previous years also, that is in 2015, UPSC has asked a question related to the national animals or wildlife species, in which one of the options given was the olive ridley turtles. Now, for the students who are preparing for the upcoming prelim examination, it is an important pointer that go through the important options which were going in the previous year questions. These options have chances of getting repeated in the future as well. So in the future, UPSC can pick any of these incorrect options and can frame a question and could be asked by the organization in this paper. So be aware of such kind of options given in the past year's paper. Now let us go through the importance of this map. This area is the eastern coast of Odisha and shows the importance of wildlife, fauna, flora, and conservation effort of the state and the central government. This area is also known for holding the very wide and diverse biodiversity of India in the tropical region. The coastal area is known for important rivers such as Subranaka, Baitarni, Brahmani, Mahanadi and Rushkulia. One of the most important Ramsar site of Chilika Lake is also located here, along with the another Ramsar site known by the name Bhitar Kanika Mangrove Forest. We have Rushikulia coastal areas, we have Devi Mouth, we have Gahir Matta. All these areas are known for mass nesting purposes. Gahir Matta is one such area which was there in the news where over 2 lakh olive ridley turtles have arrived for laying their eggs. Chandipur is known for scientific experiments and missile experiments. We have Paradeep, which is one of the largest port in the eastern India. We have Puri, which is known for its historical purposes, and Vaishnav cult. So the eastern coast of Odisha is known for various purposes across UPSC syllabus. So whenever you go through this map area, go through all these points in much more detail. Now, as far as Gahir Matha Turtle Sanctuary is concerned, it was declared so in 1997. It is one of the biggest breeding home for sea turtles in India. It is located in the Odisha's Kendrapada district. It is world famous for olive ridley sea turtles. It has an entrance of river Dharma. So national park, wildlife sanctuaries and rivers around these areas are important for prelim examination. So which river is found in Gahir Matha? It is river Dhamra. Important wildlife species include wild boar, bear, barking deer, leopard, jungle fowl, crocodile, sambar, hyena, wild dog, four-horned antelope, chinkara, wild boar, sloth bear and blue bull. All these are also important from the prelims perspective. As far as Bhitar Kanika mangrove is concerned, it is on the western part of Gahir Matha Turtle Sanctuary. It lies in the Brahmani River and the Baitarni River deltas. If you go through the map, as you can see, this is the Baitarni and Brahmani River and they are making an important delta over this place. So this would be Bhitar Kanika mangrove area. This area is part of Bhitar Kanika Wildlife Sanctuary as well as Bhitar Kanika National Park. All these are also important. And lastly, Bhitar Kanika mangrove also find place in the Ramsar's list of wetlands of international importance. Along with this, let us now move to the importance of olive ridley turtles. Olive ridley turtles are listed as vulnerable. They are not vulnerable on the basis of population. They have a very high population. But they are vulnerable because if the nesting place or the aribadas of these olive ridley turtles are destroyed, that will create a vulnerability towards the survival of these species. Otherwise, as far as population is concerned, they have a very large population to get eradicated very soon. They are under the Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act as well as the Appendix 1 of CITES. They are known for aribadas, that is mass nesting system, and there are three important aribadas found in India. One at Gahir Matha, then we have mouth of Devi River, Rushikulia, Hope Island and Astranga coast. Their breeding season is normally in the winter season, that is January to March. Now there are certain threats which have been created against the olive ridley turtles. The first one is heavy predation of the eggs by dogs and the wild animals which are found in the coastal areas. That is the reason why government have been active in restricting the movement of these animals in and around the aribadas. They are also going through the indiscriminate fishing system and are being caught in the trawlers in the ocean part. The beach is also subjected to the soil erosion. So sometimes what happens is that the soil which is overlaying the eggs is eroded and eggs are subjected to the open air. They are also leading towards the pet trading because many of these turtles are being caught by the humans for trading as a pet animal. And then we also see the development of infrastructure on the coastal areas. For this, government has taken numerous initiatives. They have initiated the use of turtle excluder devices. They have prohibited the gill nets for the turtles approaching the shore. Government is also controlling the turtles poaching. They are also conducting the patrolling system in the periodic basis. There is a mass awareness program including the newspapers and the magazines, and no man's land have been declared at the moment of nesting. Apart from this, government has also launched Operation Olivia. It is conducted by the Indian Coast Guard since 1980s to protect the olive ridley turtles off the coast of Odisha. They protect actually the nesting places of these turtles. And the Indian Coast Guard get all the powers under the Odisha Marine Fisheries Act. So it is the state government of Odisha that has empowered the government and the security agencies in order to act to protect the species of olive ridley turtles and their nesting places off the coast. With this discussion in place, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article appeared on page 13 of Sunday edition of the Hindu newspaper and talks about the recent changes and trend of India's exports with respect to the international situation. Now, India has recently experienced the export growth of about $400 billion. This is a 12-year highest data of exports India has achieved. Now, there are certain reasons for this. The first one is that due to post COVID recovery, international demand has been rising, and so as India's exports are also rising. The second one is the higher commodity prices. So, the per unit cost of each and every export has increased in the past 6 months. That is the reason why the per unit exports India has more or less remained the same, but the earning on each and every product has increased. In the last 1 month, because of the Russian Ukrainian war, there is a rise in the oil prices. When oil prices are increased, so is the input for the petroleum product also increases. Now, India is one of the largest exporter of petroleum products, not the crude oil, but the petroleum product or even the refined petroleum in the world. So, because India holds such a good position in the international platform, India's bill has increased by 141% on the petroleum products. The another reason is the Russia-Ukraine war and the food insecurity that we have already discussed in the previous DNS, that Russia and Ukraine are one of the largest exporter of wheat in the world, as both these nations are fighting, and India has been observing a ample amount of market available for its food grain to be exported in the international platform. The last reason being that global procurement is shifting from China to India and other countries like Bangladesh and Vietnam. Australia is one such nation which have been facing hurdles while trading with China. Australia, along with many other countries, are shifting towards India for their procurement of inputs as well as some of the finished goods. India now becoming a hub for electric as well as luxury car manufacturing, and they are exported from India as well. Apart from the export, even imports are growing at a higher rate. The first and the prominent reason being the higher oil prices, which is also leading towards the higher inflation. So, as per the economist, the import bill of 2021-22 is going to be around $600 billion. Together, both these exports and imports will make India one of the few countries which have 1 trillion of trade output. But the real concern is that higher imports, lower exports will make India one of the highest trade deficit grossing countries in the world. India's trade deficit can go around 190 to 200 billion dollar. And this is because of the future concerns India hold. The first concern is that in the future there is a more possibility of rising the fuel prices that will further widen India's import, and that will further widen the trade deficit India is facing. Because of the higher trade deficit, there is likelihood of rupee volatility. Because of this, we will have weak exchange rate. So, rupee will downgrade vis-a-vis dollar in the international market. And this will actually benefit the exporter who will get more returns on their exports, while it will hurt the importer who will have to pay more rupee to import each and every unit from the international market. The another concern is that there is a rising of the shipping rates and the container charges in the international market. And as India is a nation which does not have a high fleet or a large fleet of containers, India have to pay on the international charges of the hiring of such international containers. And last one is that most of the developed nations in America and Europe are looking towards inward perspective or inward trade policies, most likely towards the protectionism. More protectionism means that there is a limited scope for India's growth on export front in the future. Now, both these factors have created a recent phenomena as far as India's exports are concerned. All these data is important for your prelim examination where UPSC can ask questions on the trend of important trade components and their movement. With this discussion in place, let us now move towards the question of the day. The answer to yesterday's question of the day was option C, that is, both the statements are incorrect. Today's question of the day says that exports of India could rise under which of the following condition. These are the four conditions that you have to go through and try to identify the right conditions which may lead to the rise in India's exports in the international front. With this discussion in place, we will now come to the end of today's Daily News Simplified. Thank you.